More shocking images are surfacing of packed schools all across the country. No social distancing, very few masks being worn. Second grader in Georgia has already tested positive for COVID-19, forcing the entire class now to quarantine. Here in the mid-state, Maury County schools will not require masks to be worn after a vote that left some parents there shocked. While the superintendent and the school's legal advisor both urged a mask mandate, 6 board members just said no. Fox 17 News' Kathleen Jacobs now live in Maury County trying to get some answers about this discussion.
No one seems to want to defend the decision not to mandate masks, but we talked to multiple parents and teachers who are really concerned. So we went to every single one of those school board members who voted down this mask mandate to try and get answers from them. However, no one would talk to us about this decision that could impact so many. While these schools sit empty now, come August 10th, the halls will be filled with teachers and students. But one student who won't be attending in person is Jennifer Hoffman's second grade son.
The mask not being worn, it's not required in Maury County. That's a big concern for me because a lot of people down here don't feel like they should wear a mask or it doesn't work.
She recently had a COVID scare and realized how many people she could have spread it to.
I know you shouldn't live in fear, but at the same time, I'm going to be cautious. And these teachers are out here putting their lives on the line.
Maury County School Board Chair Betty Kinzer tried to amend the reopening plan to require masks this week. Both the district superintendent and legal advisor strongly pushed for the mandate.
If you're asking me, in my opinion, 100% unequivocal, I think you should require it.
But ultimately, it faced pushback from 6 board members. Moore, Fulbright, Atkinson, Howell, Beaver, and Sims.
I feel like if we mandate this, we ultimately are going to hurt the education of the kids.
We are following up on the board's vote last night. We reached out to every single one of those board members to see why they would vote against legal advice and CDC recommendations. No one agreed to talk to us. But it's something that solidifies Jennifer's decision.
So it's definitely scary to hear that. It's very disheartening how some people aren't taking it as serious as they should.
A decision that could have a ripple effect on this community. Another thing, the board also voted down spending around $143,000 to hire 7 more full-time nurses. That would fully staff their schools and make it easier for them to screen students for COVID-19. However, they said that they just didn't have enough information yet, and they're going to discuss that at a future workshop meeting on Saturday.
Tonight, bars and restaurants on Lower Broadway are banding together to get tourists to mask up and also keep people safe and employed. Fox 17 News' Rachel Teedy is joining us live from Broadway. And Rachel, we just heard that Metro Police made their first mask-related arrest, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I actually just spoke to the police officer who made that arrest, and he said that they first issued a citation. That person kept trying to flaunt that he wasn't wearing that mask, so they did ending up arresting him. First on the city ordinance, then on the state ordinance. And masks are definitely an issue down here. Take a look at the sign behind me. You can see the wear a mask, it's the law sign, don't share your air. Now, when I see people down here, many are wearing masks, so I have to be fair here, but there are many who are not as well, and businesses say that's a problem for them. Be a honky tonk hero. That's the message bars and restaurants on Lower Broadway want tourists to focus on by masking up, social distancing, and washing your hands.
We all have to do it. Otherwise, this economy and this world is never going to open up.
Bill Miller owns Nudies and other businesses downtown. He says it's hard for restaurants to enforce masks when people are on the sidewalk, but once they step inside...
Once you come into my place, you're mine, and you're going to be, wearing your mask, you're going to be observing social distancing, you're going to stay in your seat, you're not going to dance.
The goal is not to ruin the fun, but to keep people employed. And as tourists come and go, not everybody is listening to the mask mandate.
If you're going to catch it, you're going to catch it. That's how I feel.
It's not going to go away if you don't wear a mask.
Metro Police say they'll have more enforcements downtown this weekend ready to cite people for not wearing masks. So far, there have only been verbal warnings, about 19,000 of them. But the coalition of businesses and this new campaign hoping to get the message across even more.
And if we work together collaboratively and proactively with Metro, we can do it safely. But everybody's got to play by the rules. And those who don't should be shut down.
And like I said, since we've been down here, there has been an arrest for somebody not wearing a mask. But the businesses here, they're going to start giving away freebies. They're going to start having events trying to urge people to wear those masks with the ultimate goal of finally being able to open up and get back to normal.
Tourists are clearly bending pandemic rules in Nashville, so some business owners, they are really leaning on city leaders for any kind of guidance. They want to know how they can enforce these rules if they can't depend on a speedy response from police.
Now, this follows complaints from a local restaurant owner who says a non-compliant customer intentionally coughed on one of his employees over the weekend. Fox 17 News' Kathleen Surrey live in Nashville with the latest on this story.
Well, right now, restaurant owners have to follow a lot of rules or they face big consequences. But some feel like their guests aren't being held to that same standard and they're not facing any repercussions when they break the rules. Tonight, they're wondering if there's anything that can be done about that. Mockingbird restaurant co-owner Mikey Corona describes a helpless feeling when he says he watched a woman with a bachelorette party intentionally cough on one of his employees in the middle of a pandemic.
It's disturbing. It's really disturbing.
He says the next helpless feeling was not knowing what to do. He knew the rules had been broken. He called Metro Police, but because it wasn't an emergency, he says they waited for more than an hour before an officer arrived to take the report. The group was long gone by then.
What are you supposed to do? Do we have to start carrying handcuffs around? Do we have to start having mace? I couldn't lock the door and say you can't leave until the police come.
He hoped Mayor Cooper could provide some guidance on how business owners can respond to this type of situation. So he brought his concerns directly to the mayor.
I mean, there's always unacceptable behavior, sometimes by patrons, sometimes alcohol has promoted that. But there has to be a zero tolerance for actively trying to endanger or behave like you're endangering an employee of one of our valued businesses here. And so the owner of that establishment, I think, knows how to contact us and the police, and we would be happy to investigate, send a detective.
Khalil Arnold owns Arnold's Country Kitchen in Nashville. He says most of his guests have followed the rules, but he can understand the feeling of not knowing what to do in this circumstance.
You're just so stressed out if you're trying to do everything right, and then you have somebody like that come in. Let's just hope that people like that stay out of Nashville.
There is an open investigation into this with Metro Police right now, and the employee who was reportedly coughed on does want to press charges.
In digging out a plan to reduce Nashville's 34% property tax hike is going to Metro leaders tonight, but the city's finance director is already planning to shoot it down, calling that measure invalid. Fox 17 News' Nikki Jenna was now live outside the courthouse with details on the proposal and why some are calling it wishful thinking.
Scott, tonight Metro Councilman Steve Glover proposed a property tax levy of 22% as opposed to 34%. And he believes that this reduction is feasible, saying that the sales tax projections for 2020-2021 were lower than they should be in that last budget. Glover believes the forecasted budget shortfall of $200 million in taxes for this fiscal year is no longer accurate and will actually be closer to $100 million instead. He says sales tax revenues for the final quarter of the last fiscal year were a lot higher than projected during a time when most businesses were closed due to COVID-19. Given the continued interest in Nashville as a tourist destination, Glover believes our economy will rebound once it is allowed to reopen late this year and early next year, making that 34% property tax increase no longer necessary.
Every time we run into a problem, the solution is just raise taxes. That's a lousy solution. It's one that will never end. I don't want to take the money out of your pocket and give it to the government. The government manages money terribly. I wanted it to stay in your wallet. Why give the government more money than it, quote, needs? It's already taken more than it needs.
However, the Metro Council chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, Bob Mendez, is the only person who can revise the sales tax projections in the budget, and he is refusing to do that tonight. Now, tonight, this bill, I should say, should have made it through first reading without any discussion, but Mendez is expected to call for a discussion instead. However, this issue has not been brought up yet here at Metro Council tonight. We will keep you posted as we learn more.